How to recognize if I do have a problem with alcohol? Well, technically speaking, we're talking about, starting drinking more and more and more, and that alcohol gets pretty much involved too much in your life, which I definitely know, and I'm convinced and concerned and perspective that we don't need alcohol in our lives at all. But that's a free choice. But if you have some concerns and you're looking for some answers, maybe you might have some questions. I hope that the signs I will show you, they can kind of fill up more your pages, so you will recognize if you are actually hitting towards alcohol addiction. And if you are start thinking about your alcohol consumption, maybe you are already with a few steps closer to that problem. And if you're watching this video, well, that means it's a good sign that you recognize something yourself, and maybe you're not sure about something. So I would like to provide you with them typical some signs showing you that unfortunately you are heading towards alcohol addiction. Typical planning your day around alcohol. Let's say, for example, you're waking up in the morning, you're getting yourself ready for work, whatever the chores and things you've got to do, but like very pretty much quickly after you being waked up, and you decided what you're gonna have for your breakfast, if you are a breakfast person, then you kind of start thinking what time you're finishing the work, and you're planning some kind of a route when you're gonna stop, by a shops, so you're gonna get yourself some alcohol. Yeah, exactly. And then you technically speaking moving the whole day around it. So it's not like you are doing what you're supposed to do within your day. It's more like the alcohol is being prioritized first, right? The purchase of the alcohol, if you already have one, then you actually planning towards how you're gonna be doing the consumption, when you're gonna be doing the consumption. So this is gonna be something which is put it, first. So you go in towards planning everything around you, which will be alcohol first. And in that perspective, anything which might not happen because you're gonna be drinking, and you're thinking, fair enough, if I don't do that today, there will be tomorrow. So then you're pushing all your responsibilities further on the side, but the alcohol has to happen. And if, for instance, it will be something like you have shortage of alcohol, or you are not gonna be drinking alcohol because whatever you have to do something, you're panicking, or you are angry, or it feels odd because that alcohol is supposed to be there but it's not. It's just because I have to do something, or I have to be somewhere. On top of that, you might have something like, even if you decided that about certain hour you're gonna be drinking alcohol, and that not happening, you're very angry and you're very not happy because of this. So it told you like you being like on a short fuse in that perspective. So you start being not nice to people around you. Probably I would say the kind of a cravings are kicking up because you're supposed to have it now and you don't have it. So you probably might be even thinking that that is ruining your evening or ruining your day just because I cannot have some. Being afraid of shortage is another one. Specifically on the weekend when it's like time for shopping, going to the grocery shops, stores, whatever you do and however you're doing it, but then that alcohol has to be purchased. And majority cases, you're buying alcohol in a large volumes, and it happens to be that you're unable to finish even through that weekend, or you having something like you waking up on the next day and then you see there is like alcohol not being finished because you're so afraid that you're not gonna have enough. Then you trying to kind of bulk sizing, so you're buying like crazy. It might be a case that you go in, like some people are doing shops in the different shops, right? Just to just to cover whatever the necessities are, and every visit in every shop ends up with more and more alcohol, which looks like a kind of a it feels like a lunatic. It's like every shop I'm going, when I see the alcohols, I'm taking it. But probably you're unable to handle that kind of a volume, but still you're buying it because you're afraid of shortage. or you might be, worrying that you're not gonna have enough because probably in the past you had a situation like, it was like 6 p.m. and whatever you purchased you already drank, and now I don't have anything. So that was coming up with extra visits, specifically on the evening or very late at night because, I don't have enough. But we know how that story looks like on the next day when you're waking up and you actually see that you couldn't finish, you don't remember what was going on, you black out already. So then you go in, let's say, to the fridge and you're doing some kind of a research search, what's happened, and assess the damage. Do I still have more? Or, it's just like, this is one of the crazy feelings as well, which might, happen to you. People around you start telling you that you're drinking too much, but you're gonna be fighting this, and then they're gonna be becoming like your enemies. That's another indication that something's not going right. Now, because they're upsetting you, because you kind of a feeling that they're taking away your freedom, which means I can drink anytime I want, whatever I want, however I want, and now someone tried to put some kind of a limits on me. Unfortunately, you might start doing kind of a drinking, in a secret. So you hide your stuff. You go somewhere, or you're trying to find a reason to go to the shop. Let's say that, oh, I need to buy something because we have a shortage of something, and then you're making sure that you're doing, solo, right? So there's nobody with you, and then might give you a chance to buy something so no one sees it. Maybe you can come home and hide it. So you're gonna have later when people will go to sleep. So you're gonna be okay because I'm covered, I got it. Or maybe you're gonna be like in a position that you're gonna just go quickly, get something from a shop and drink something by a shop just to be, covered, right? So I had something, so they didn't know that I have, and I'm not gonna be worried again about the shortage. That could be another thing. I'm not saying that everyone does that, but it happens very often. The after party mode or before party mode. So let's say that you might have night out and you start drinking before. Well, yeah, of course, typical explanation for that one, and a reason will be, do you know what? It's so expensive in a club, wherever we go in. So we're gonna get something, just to get as a startup. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be okay. But then coming up from, let's say, the party, some people are continue at home. It might be some kind of a visiting friends or family, and then well, majority people come, on a kind of a mode like, you don't drink normally as you do because you don't want to look bad that you have a problem with drinking. But then just because it wasn't enough at the party, then I can always come home and finish myself off, right? So that's another indication. It's like getting to the point that I need to have my usual. If I don't have my, usual, then I am being afraid. It's not how it's supposed to be. So you see how this is getting you to that kind of a mode that whatever happens around you, I still need to have what I'm supposed to have, because if I will not have it, then something's gonna be wrong with me. That is a typical cravings and typical all these patterns, which they unfortunately are very sad if you start looking closely to it. Another one which might indicate that you start having problem with alcohol is when you try to control it. No one who has no problems with something does not try to control it. You don't need to control something if there is no problem. You might have already a situation that people around you told you that, it's like you start having probably some problem with something. Now you're living in denial. So now you try to show everyone that I got no problem because, I can stop anytime I want. And this is actually typical situation when later you're going to be failing on it. Because if you're supposed to have, because you have set up, number of, quantity or a volume in your head which you would like to drink because you're completely convinced that this is what you need, and when you do as much, as you set up, then you will feel enough. Then even if you put yourself in a control mode, maybe that might work on the on the startup at the startup, but then it comes down to the point that you will crush, and usually you will crush because you're gonna start drinking later even more than you normally drinking because you know you had a shortage, you didn't have enough. Now you have to kind of compensate yourself, and unfortunately that happens because you're thinking, okay, I show them that I'm okay, so now I lie to myself, to be fair, because you try to lie to yourself that you got everything under control. You want to show others that you have everything under control. So normally if you had four, now you having one, you're showing them, you're very proud of it. It's like, what are you talking about? I got no problem. But then unfortunately everything goes back to normal, and that normal is always with some extra because you have to compensate. The risk of getting caught drunk. Now that one is getting, unfortunately, in a position when we're talking about the job, or we're talking about driving a car, for instance, or doing any other important things. You might be the person who operates some kind of equipment at work, you know, and there is many jobs where people are not supervised like totally, within the whole time. So depending on the characteristic of your job, you might have something that you might see only both like, at some point, a few times through the day, and you being left by yourself because that's, that's the typical job of yours. It is. So it might be like, let's say that you are van driver or something. So you see people in the morning in the depot, you get loaded, and then you go in, um, to work. So you drive, you do whatever you're supposed to do, and then all you have to do is just a trick. Even if you hang over, you just kind of trying to avoid the office as fast as you can, or get the stuff you need, so you're not gonna be noticed that you actually smell, you know so they can kind of a sense that you are still under influence a bit. Or you might be in the places like some warehouses or something when you drive in the forklift or anything like that. The trouble with that one is you probably start to go into work from time to time when you've been hangover. No one said nothing, no one noticed nothing, and then you become some kind of a crazily brave because you start thinking, okay, no one said nothing, I was a little bit hangover, or maybe they even said something but they didn't say nothing because let's say that you're a good worker, so you do your tasks, you push everything, so that in that perspective doesn't interfere with any of your duties or responsibilities. But the problem is, if you unfortunately tired from doing the alcohol the night before or the day before, your kind of awareness of everything you're doing around is not 100%. It's not 100%, and the trouble is that you start taking risks. And on next time when you do it, you probably will do more and more and more, and then that gets crazy because if you, let's say, have to commute yourself to work with a car or something like that, you technically speaking start driving still under influence. And if you're gonna hit someone, or you're gonna um, drive in some kind of a dangerous manner, it's just because you're gonna be tired, or you're not gonna have that the proper response or something like that. Now you get in danger to yourself because, one, if you're gonna get caught by police, you know what's gonna happen. If you're gonna do some damage to someone's car, or or you're gonna injure some people, that will be a total disaster for your life. So that's one of the things you have to look at as well. That's one of the signs of showing you that you start taking and doing some crazy stuff. And everything is just because the alcohol is, stepping more and more into your life. It might be get going as well, some kind of a non-logic behaviors. Like, you know, you're getting so close with alcohol, and even when you don't have enough finances, because that will cost you money, unfortunately. So you're gonna be spending a lot of money towards it, right? And then when you're running out of the money, then you're gonna be trying to borrow some money from people. So that's gonna be putting you in kind of some kind of a financial stress. Constantly borrowing money from people. When you got a payday, you're giving the money back, but then again you have to, borrow some money because you don't have enough for your necessities. And that's how you can see as well that becomes a problem. That's another sign of showing you that you're not, managing things right around you. It's just because the alcohol was involved in this, you know. Getting into position where you try to organize some, finances, some money, because at the end of the day you have to buy it. Maybe it might be a case later that if you don't have enough money, you're gonna start going to the places and try to, create a situation that you're gonna get some alcohol, and then let's say you're gonna pay later. Things like that happen. It might be again the situation that maybe you're gonna even start stealing stuff. I mean, this is like when the alcohol takes over, you start doing non-logic things, and they're very dangerous for you because they might lead you to some behaviors which you will normally not do at all. But there you go. When the alcohol takes over, there's no brainer in that. Your brain is totally switched off because you're gonna be so much driven towards getting anything to drink. Then it becomes very tough later when you will create some certain situations, which unfortunately later, some law restrictions might be applied to it. So yeah, that's one of the signs as well. When you're failing to deliver, the normal tasks around your life, like you start going, sloppy with job because you hangover very often, you start skipping job on Mondays, Fridays, or maybe there is some kind of a holidays, bank holidays, or maybe before your holidays you're not coming up to work. Maybe you're taking the holiday just only to drink. People do that. That's another sign, another indication showing you that you might have a problem. It's like alcohol start taking over your life. So failing to deliver as well by around the house, you're not doing something, you maybe not paying some bills now. It's just because there's a shortage of money because of the alcohol consumption. Or maybe you're gonna have some, you're gonna get yourself a payday, and instead of, for instance, buy what is needed for you, you're not gonna buy new shoes. You're gonna thinking maybe I will get some work shoes and I can use, so I'm gonna have the money for drinking. Now the same as with, let's say, food shopping. You be going, let's say that you have some certain amount of the money you spend, and then the majority what's gonna happen, and you're gonna end up in your trolley, in your in your cart, or whatever that is, it's gonna be the alcohol. That's gonna be fast. Okay. Any other things you can skip, I can forget about it. Or maybe my kids, they need shoes or something. You're not gonna buy them shoes, or you're gonna buy them cheaper shoes, so you're still gonna have enough money for the alcohol. Yeah, that's one of them signs showing you that you start prioritizing the alcohol first. So that's something which is good to look at. Look at definitely your behavior towards the alcohol, and if that alcohol is actually prioritized first. With a busy life, you have something like timing, and timing of your drinking will be difficult as well. So if you are, let's say, without much responsibilities, then you have obviously more time for drinking, which in that case sounds very lovely. When you being driven towards alcohol too much. And then when your life gets busy, and let's say you have more and more responsibilities and you have less time, you will speed up your drinking. That happens to many people. Just because they want to get the usual, whatever that is, they will try to fit that in a shorter frame, which means you're going to be actually maybe not drinking excessively, but you're going to be intoxicating yourself faster. Okay? Which is totally not good for you. And then you will see like all these coming up days when you wake up on the next day, you don't feel well. It's just because you've been intoxicating yourself very quickly. That timing is just because being frustrated, that frustration's coming up that you cannot drink what let's say that you're doing 4 lagers. And then normally, let's say you've been doing 4 lagers within 3 hours. I'm just average goal. And now you have only 2 hours. So you're going to do them 4 lagers within 2 hours, which means you're going to start drinking faster, which means you're going to be drunk faster. Okay? Which will affect everything around you, especially if you have a busy household. So you're gonna be trying to do some things like maybe I can do stuff and drink on the same time as well. If I don't have to drive nowhere, that's great, fantastic. Sometimes there is a case that the people actually just like locking everything, just I don't have to go nowhere, I don't need to see nobody, or you're gonna be trying to minimize any outgoings just so I can have that time for myself, so I can drink because I need to have my usual. I'm not even talking about danger of later when, let's say, there is a single or solo parent at home, the other parent went to work or something like that, and now you start drinking and you've been left with your kids. If anything happens there, that's not going to be good stuff. That's not going to be good stuff later happening for you, because that's going to be just the indication that you're unable to take care of your kids because, well, you're taking a bigger care about being intoxicated in perspective drinking alcohol rather than taking care of your kids, which should be, let's say, your first responsibility. So that could be to anything. And as you can see, these are like things that they look normal. In the beginning, it's nothing, it's nothing wrong with that. It might be thinking. But if you look from the other perspective, from the other side, these are typical signs showing you that the alcohol start taking over. And especially, this is a very good way to show you how the functional alcoholics are living. So you shouldn't attack me. I've got everything done. The job is done. The school runs are done, for instance, or anything around the house is done. Kids are being fed or pets are being fed. I've got everything done around the house. The house is nice and clean. Everything's fine, but the alcohol has to be involved. This alcohol, it gets very quietly into your life. It's just getting more and more and more and more, and unfortunately, start taking over everything. Because there will be the point later when, if you're not gonna wake up yourself fast enough to do something with it, then unfortunately, it's gonna start taking everything away from you. I hope this stuff was beneficial for you. Maybe you can see some similarities. Maybe it's some doubts. Maybe it's some questions. Maybe that actually answer to your questions, and then might give you some ideas that you could be heading this unfortunately wrong direction. The good thing is, if you're here and you're watching that stuff, then you might recognize that something might be odd, something might not be working well, and maybe there is a chance to do something. And the more in a case when you recognize yourself a problem, then is a much bigger chance that you can get yourself straight and you can get yourself away from alcohol. If you are interested with more, you know what to do. I wish you sober day, sober week, sober month, sober year, hopefully sober life. Take care of yourself. I'll see you later.